If you want to know what's going to happen in the Victoria real estate market in 2026, this video is for you. We're going to dig in on the four main factors that are going to determine the direction of our market in the coming year. And I'm also going to share why I disagree with the BCREA's forecast. I'm Sean P, and I'm a real estate broker who lives in Victoria, BC. And on this channel, we post videos every week to help you stay informed. So if you always want to know what's going on in our market and you want to know the best strategies to use, you should make sure that you like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the videos that we have coming up. Also, if you have plans involving real estate, I would love to work with you. You can use the link in description to get in touch with me. Okay, let's start by digging in on the four main factors that are going to be deciding where our market goes this year. By far, the biggest factor affecting our market in 2026 is going to be supply and demand. Now, supply and demand is always an important factor, but it's been the dominant theme of 2025. We've kind of tankered through the year carrying a lot of standing inventory. Now, obviously, this changes the balance in how buyers negotiate, but it also affects their psychology, and they tend to just move slower through the process because there's just no urgency for them to make decisions quickly. Now, if you remember back in 2024 at this time, we were actually predicting a strong spring market. We just had two double rate drops and we experienced a little blip of heightened activity in November and December. It didn't really pan out. Political stuff got in the way and our spring market kind of suffered as a result. We've actually come into the second half of this year with some pretty decent and healthy activity, but it hasn't been enough to offset the amount of inventory that we accumulated in the spring market. We're going to carry that inventory through into the spring of 2026. So we're going to enter the year with a lot of standing inventory. My prediction is that we'll have a good start to the year in sales, but I'm not sure that it'll be enough to offset the inventory that's standing in the market because we also have a really big year coming for mortgage renewals. In September, BMO released a report that between September 2025 and September 2026, 1.8 million Canadians were set to renew their mortgages. Now, this renewal wave, as they described it, is going to crest through the spring and reach its peak around June this year, right in time to offset our spring market. Now, this is a significant portion of Canadians. This is about 25% of the total mortgages in Canada are set to turn over in the coming year, with the majority right in our spring market. This could seriously offset the uptick in activity that we're likely to see in the spring. Think about it. When your mortgage comes up for renewal, there's less fees associated with breaking it because you're not breaking it. You wrote out your term, so you're free to go choose another mortgage. So a lot of people will choose naturally to align their moves with their mortgage renewal. But there's something else. The majority of those mortgages are fixed rate mortgages, either long-term mortgages that would have originated when interest rates were really low, or there's also a healthy blend of short-term mortgages, which will land somewhere in the middle. But in a report by CMHC, they said that the balance of people who are renewing fixed rate mortgages will probably see their payments increase by 15 to 20%. When you combine that with the inflation that people have suffered through over the past few years and the general morale of people feeling pinched in Canada, there's a high probability that we're going to see some properties start to hit the market that might otherwise have held out a little longer or chosen to just stay in their home. Ultimately, the balance between supply and demand will be one of the most important factors in how our market performs this year. But it's important to remember that these things don't change too quickly and they take a while to show up in sales data. We're still sitting healthily into the balance, cresting on buyer's market territory. So in order to get to a place where the market feels more competitive, we need to chew through inventory. And it's going to be really interesting to see how things balance out. Again, I believe that we have some pent-up demand. We were teed up for a good spring last year and it slipped through our fingers. There's a lot of people who've been waiting for a signal from the market that it's time to jump in, and I could see them coming to the market this spring. At the same time, I think that'll still be offset by mortgage renewals, and we just don't know how this is all going to land until we watch it play out. The second major factor we're going to be watching in 2026 is something that's actually not going to show up in the stats at all, but it is a huge driver, and this is buyer confidence. Buyer's confidence essentially is something that you can only really get a good feel for boots to the ground. You need someone who can lead you through the conversations they're having with buyers and tell you how it affects the market. Generally speaking, buyers are very sensitive to the oversupply in our market right now because they're worried that they're going to buy in before it hits the bottom. Now, we've been reporting on market prices throughout the course of the entire year, and it has been extremely stable. Buyers, though, are still apprehensive because there's just hasn't been a clear signal that prices are going to start to move up. When we get to that point, we'll start to see buyer confidence really grow. And the unfortunate truth is that this kind of thing doesn't grow quickly. Buyers aren't looking for a single point as a signal, they're looking for a trend. To me, before I feel like I see an actual trend in the market, I need to see it for at least 3, preferably 4 or 5 consecutive months. Otherwise, it could just be a blip. Remember, statistics are very limited due to things like sample size. So buyers are going to be watching and waiting to see that there's clear proof our market is making a direction change. There's one other thing, though, that really is affecting the mindset of buyers right now, and that's essentially household affordability. People just feel pinched. It's been really expensive for the past few years, and Victoria is also one of the more expensive cities in BC. So I think a lot of people that were considering a move or wanted to upgrade or were planning their first purchase just feel a little bit apprehensive about taking on a larger commitment. They really want to know that it's the right decision, and that's going to be something that will be a key factor because reluctance is something that's hard to negotiate or explain away. It's just something that people need to feel within themselves. And again, it's going to take some time. Lending conditions are always a significant factor when it comes to market trajectory, and 2026 will be no different. Currently, the prevailing assumption is that they are likely to stay right about where they are for the remainder of the coming year. Bank of Canada has stated that they think they've got it where it should be to maintain inflation and they're happy with it. But there's some people who have different opinions. Scotiabank thinks it's possible that rates will go up towards the latter half of 2026. Desjardins expects that will happen as well, but it'll more likely be towards 2027 that we see that taking place. And then we have BMO saying that they actually think there's a good probability that rates will have to come down another quarter point. It's impossible to say until it happens. But the truth is, when it comes to interest rates, there's always a lag. The market doesn't respond for 6 to 12 months after interest rate changes take place. It just takes time for it to trickle down to household economics and start to affect our market. What's interesting, though, is that the last few interest rate drops that we've seen will kick in towards the second half of our spring market or around the summer. So that could actually further boost the activity level. Now, one thing to consider is that despite those changes being small, another thing that's going to come into play is the fact that stability will have been proven by that time. A lot of buyers wait to see what rates look like they're doing because they want to lock in a good rate. They don't want to sign up for a mortgage right before they go down a few more times. A lot of people are choosing fixed rates right now. Banks also delay offering their best fixed rates because they want to see what the actual interest rate is going to look like in the long term. And when there's been a lot of activity, they're apprehensive to trust that things are going to stay where they are. So most likely, we'll see the lending conditions actually acting as a positive force in our market through the coming year. And it'll be interesting to see if the prediction that rates will go up as early as the end of 2026 comes true. When we have a market where one of the major factors affecting it is uncertainty and buyer confidence, well, that tends to drive further segmentation because people are really concerned about making the wrong choice. Essentially, what we're expecting in 2026 is that the detached market will be an outlier from the experience that buyers expect when they step into the market. If you read the reports from the BCREA or from the Victoria Real Estate Board, they describe the market as having a slow pace with lots of choice for buyers, but it's not necessarily true for well-priced detached homes. Well-priced detached in almost every price segment are still moving relatively quick. So what I'm telling people is if you're shopping for a detached home, Watch for well-priced properties and be prepared to move fast. Otherwise, you're going to end up in competition, and that just ends up costing you more. Another segment of the detached market that will perform really well when it comes to buyers getting good value is overpriced properties with more than 60 days on market. Watch for these and bring in an offer closer to true value. You could probably pick them up for less than you would if you're shopping the new inventory in the marketplace. As we move through the year, you can expect the condo segment will continue to show a lot of standing inventory. If you think about the millennials, they're getting to the age now where many of them are selling their condos and trying to find a way to purchase more square footage as they grow their families. So it's a segment of the market that has more people moving away from it than towards it. Now, this will represent itself as an imbalance. It's going to take some time for condo listings to turn over, but it doesn't mean that they're doomed. They're going to turn over if they're well priced. It just means that buyers are going to remain a little bit more price sensitive. Another thing that contributes to the inventory imbalance that we have with condos, we have a lot of different styles of condos for people to choose from. Victoria has condos ranging from low-rise 1970s wood-framed buildings to, really tall, modern skyscrapers. So for buyers, it's really important that they hone in on what they want and they focus on getting the best value. Choose a segment of the condo market itself and target it. Well-priced properties will continue to move quick, but they'll face stringent conditions, and buyers will really work through their due diligence, expecting that any deficiencies or concerns with the strata are addressed before they take possession. Townhome product will remain a great option for millennials trying to upsize from their condos, but they'll face a lot of competition in the marketplace, particularly in the West Shore. We have so many new townhomes that are on the market from the past 5 years in the West Shore. If you have an older townhome, you can expect that it's going to take some time and you might need to price aggressively to attract buyers. Now, in the core, we'll see the same thing, but to a much lesser extent. There's just not as much new development. We are, though, seeing a lot of new construction focusing on townhomes because it's one of the only segments in the development industry right now that's actually able to turn a profit. Finally, luxury. I'm expecting luxury to pick up through 2026. We've already seen a boost in the second half of 2025, and moving into the new year, as buyer confidence continues to expand, well-priced luxury properties are going to start getting picked up at a faster rate. So I think we'll see this, and there'll also be some sellers who have been waiting for the signal of improvement that will choose to jump on the bandwagon. This is a great moment to upgrade if you're looking into luxury. Prices are not going to respond very quickly in an upward direction. In fact, they'll probably stay stable. Sellers have been waiting for a market where they can sell, so they'll put their homes on the market and they'll still be forced to price it well. In a marketplace where we have this kind of segmentation and where luxury has been really soft for a couple of years, the sale price for luxury kind of gets crunched down. We see the market constricted in terms of what a smaller home and a larger home will sell for. The starter market, in essence, is still a lot stronger than the luxury market, so it pushes up the base, and people who are making a jump from starter or mid-range product into the luxury market can do that with less of a financial gap to bridge right now. It's a great opportunity if you're pursuing this kind of thing. The other segment I'm going to say I think has a lot of opportunity is investors looking at the townhome segment. Well, if you're in a marketplace where there's a lot of competition, there's going to be some sellers out there who need to sell. And you might be able to scoop up a great deal if you can find a property that the seller, is in a position that you can solve for them. I will say, as always, don't focus on getting the cheapest house. Get a good deal on the best house. There's no point in putting yourself into a bad property just because you could get it for cheap. So, my predictions for 2025? Well, first off, I think that we're going to remain in balanced market territory throughout the course of the year. With that said, I do expect that sales figures will be higher than the previous year, and I do think that we'll start to see a bit of an uptick in competition, particularly clustered in the detached market in starter price ranges. Let's just call it under $1.5 million. We're going to see a lot more people popping their heads up and bumping into each other, which could lead to a little bit of price growth. Now, I said that I disagreed with the BC REA's prediction. They said that they expect across the province a 4% boost in price at the finish of the year, and I don't see that happening. I think, frankly, we'd be lucky to get 2%, maybe 3%, but it could happen. I do think that we'll see sales jump significantly throughout the course of the year. That's just going to be based on pent-up demand and a lot of people just coming back to the market when their mortgage renews, not necessarily out of duress, but just because they waited to let their plans take place. And frankly, it's a good time to do it. Aside from that, I think segmentation will continue to be a driving consideration in our market. Detached, strong, luxury is going to get moving, but it's not going to see any fireworks in the price department. Condos and townhomes expect a slower ride, particularly if you're not in a great location or you're not right downtown. As always, your situation doesn't just look at the market as the major consideration. There's also the strategy to what you want to see happen, the subtleties to your home, your finances, and what's realistically possible for you. I'd love to learn more. And if you want to have a conversation, you can book time with me using the link in the description. As always, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really motivates us to keep putting these videos out, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.